Well, if your family is anything like ours, you love games. I wanted to share some of our family's top favorite selections. So you'll see links down in the description for each of these games. These are all games that we have played many, many times. And the great thing is that this is going to be a collection of recommendations that spans multiple stages of life. So whether you have little kids, whether you have elementary, middle school, high school, or maybe it's just you and your husband who like to play the games, you're going to have lots of great options to choose from. So, this first game is one that is perfect if you have little kids in your family. And the thing that I like about it is that even if you only have maybe one little kid, this is a game that even your older kids and probably even you are going to enjoy playing with them. It's called Richard Scarry's Busy Town. I found it. So, one of the great things about this game is that it's actually a combination of competitive and cooperative. The first half of the game is competitive, and it's kind of set up, think of like a Where's Waldo situation, except that instead of looking for one Waldo, you're looking for whatever the little card tells you to look for. It's so filled with little things going on in town, though, that it's not always easy to find it. So you have a certain amount of time, you get your little timer, and it's going to tell you how long you have to find whatever's on the card. And that is going to help determine how far everyone moves up the game board. But then, in order to actually win, everyone has to work together once they get onto the ferry to go have their picnic on the island. And you need to try to get to the island before you lose all the food in your basket and you don't have anything to have a picnic with. And so there's not just one winner in the end. Either you all win or you all lose, which, as you know, if you have a little one, is going to be important. So if you have little ones in your family, I would say this is great for maybe a mature 3.5-year-old all the way up to, 7 or 8. And then still being able to play with other kids older than them in the family. This is an absolute must have if you are a board game family and you've got little ones. The next game I wanted to recommend is Quarkle. And this is another great game for if you have, I'd say, young kids like around age 5.5 and up could probably play this. It is deceptively simple. It's really just creating rows and columns that are connected like they would be in a crossword puzzle based on the color that that row is going for or the shape that that row is going for. It gets more and more complex as those different rows and columns start to connect. And it's the kind of game that's going to teach kids that they really need to pay attention. They need to be paying very close attention to what other people have laid down and what they have and what is still missing and what is still available. And so it's another great game that you can play with multiple ages, a game that you're going to enjoy. It's not a little kid game. And it's also the kind of game that as long as you've got kind of a protected space, you could kind of keep coming back to it every once in a while. You wouldn't have to play it to the very end all in one go, although it is not a terribly long game if you don't want it to be. You can certainly set kind of a point limit and say whoever gets to this many points first wins, but it is lots of fun. It's a great opportunity for pattern recognition, working on that, working on taking turns, and of course on working on paying attention. The third game that I wanted to recommend is Yahtzee. We have this great travel version has seen a lot of action. It's very dusty and very dirty. But the great thing about this game is that, again, it's another game that you can play with multiple ages because it is not that difficult to grasp what it is that you're doing. You roll the dice, you get 3 chances to try to get, whatever's left on your scorecard. But the great thing about it is that it really starts to help kids grasp that idea of probability. Okay, I've rolled 3 ones. What is the likelihood that I'm going to be able to get Yahtzee on this? Is that really what I should be going for? It makes them start thinking about, okay, what are my odds here? What are the chances of this? And it's also a great game for math, obviously, and lots of comparing different opportunities. Because if you remember back, I'm sure you've played this game in the past. If you think back to the top, you have each of the different values of the dice, and you're just trying to get as many as you can of each for each of those. And then down at the bottom, you have things like full house and a short straight and a long straight, Yahtzee, chance. And so if you're trying to maximize your points, your kids need to really think, okay, given what I've rolled here, what is my best option? So there's lots of paying attention to different values, to, what's the likelihood that I'm going to be able to get this versus this. So, but when they're young and they just want to roll the dice, it's a great way to start helping them with those math skills of just counting. So it's easy for them to play, but the older they get, the more strategy they can start to create and start working on. So that would be my third recommendation, Yahtzee. The next game that I want to recommend is Dragonwood. This is a great game if you have upper elementary all the way up to adult. This is one of the games that I still love to play with my girls. And it's a combination of dice and cards. And you are, as you are in most games, trying to get the most points. However, the cards that you win, there are different ways to win them. And so it's one of those games where you need to decide on a strategy and you need to pay attention to what your other teammates have already accrued. You actually get to see what everyone else has won. So you can kind of be keeping tabs on where everyone else is kind of in terms of their points. It is not a difficult game to learn. However, the reason I would say upper elementary and older is because it is definitely not a fast-paced game. So it takes a little bit more patience. There are kind of multiple facets to it. So once you've kind of started playing, it all kind of comes together. But that first hand might be might take a little bit more concentration. It is not a long game. So if you don't have a lot of time, you can probably get a hand of this in and still be able to finish it. The next game I wanted to recommend, we've purchased twice because we love it so much, and we have lost both of them because that's how often we take this game out. It gets played all the time, and it is Monopoly Deal. Now, the actual Monopoly game, we are all familiar with that. We all know that that game takes forever to play. One of the things I love about Monopoly Deal is that it does not. You can play a whole hand of this in like 20 minutes. And again, it is not super difficult to learn. We actually learned this game from my niece and nephew, and my nephew was, I want to say 9 or 10 the first time that we played it with them. So upper elementary can grasp this game and can figure out, the strategy and the gameplay pretty quickly. It is fairly fast paced if you want it to be, and it is not real difficult to understand. But again, because it's a card game, littler kids, they might be able to understand the rules, but typically having to sit and hold cards does not go over well with younger kids. So you could try it if you have younger children that are under like that upper elementary age. This is a great after dinner on Christmas when everyone's sitting around. This is a great game that you can play with lots of people. I think it goes up to 5 or 6 players. And since it's a card game, it's small. You can easily chuck it into a backpack, bring it with you to, a game day at the park with other homeschoolers, or sit and play it on the airport floor, which I've done multiple times with my girls. In fact, I think that's where we lost it. It might still be at the airport. It is a great game, though. We really enjoy this one. These last 2 games are meant a little more for older ages. The first one is Forbidden Island. There's another one by the same company called Forbidden Desert. We have them both. We love them both. These are both cooperative games. And so if you do have a child that's younger, maybe upper elementary, early middle school, then because you're all working together, they could still probably play with you and start to learn the gameplay and the strategy and all the different roles that you can be in the game and the best way to leverage each of those to get everybody to victory. It is not a super long game, but it's also not a short game. Like, you would probably want to give yourselves a good 45 minutes to play it, I would think. And it has beautiful artwork. The cards are just gorgeous. And it's a fun objective of trying to escape this island that is slowly sinking around you. So this is another fun one for bringing multiple ages together to play. It's also a game that you can play with just 2 people. My husband and I have played this many times, just the 2 of us. We will sometimes kind of cheat a little bit and each play 2 different characters so that we've got the benefit of multiple roles. It is definitely harder to play, much harder to play if you really play it as only 2 people, because it is created so that each of the different roles that you can be are very integral to actually escaping the island. So the more people you have playing, kind of the more fun it is, because then you get the benefit of all of those different roles. The last game I wanted to recommend is Dice Throne. This is their Christmas edition, actually, Santa versus Krampus. There are 2 huge boxes that have, I want to say, 6 or 8 different characters in each box. You can buy them in 2 packs like this, so you get 2 different characters, and so this would be a 2-person game. Or you can get the big box sets, and then you've got all of these different characters to choose from. It is a slightly more complex game, so I would say probably Upper middle school into high school and then up into adult, obviously, would be the target ages. You can play with up to 6 people, and the box actually does say ages 8 and up. I could see that with some parental help. You probably could have somebody that young playing, but if you want them to really be able to grasp the strategy and be able to play it independently, I would say maybe more like middle school. Each character has different kinds of abilities, different powers, different weaknesses, and you get to play those against the other characters, and they can play your weaknesses against you. You can play their weaknesses against them. There are lots of different strategies that you can take, and there are multiple seasons of the game. The seasons all come in those giant boxes. So I want to say that altogether, gosh, there are probably 14 to 20 different characters. If you get these boxes of just 2 characters, this is the whole game. You don't have to get anything else if you don't want to. But if you have multiple people in your family who are going to be playing, the great big box that has an entire season's worth of characters is definitely worth the investment, because every character is very different. And so, you typically find that you have one character that you really kind of identify with and you want to play the most with. But then you also find after a while that you want to try somebody new and see if you can, really wrap your brain around the best way to play that character. Just kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a challenge, or if you're looking just to win, you want to just stick with the character you usually play with because you know them well. My husband and I have played this game so many times. Oh my goodness. We discovered it, I want to say, right kind of at the end of the whole pandemic thing. And I want to say that in the first month that we had it, we probably played maybe 30 games like in a month. I mean, it was an obsession. We would play it all the time and we loved it. So I highly recommend Dice Throne. Don't forget to watch the other videos in this series of holiday recommendations. I would love to hear from you what games you're thinking of trying or what games you would recommend. And I hope you found this video useful, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.